It happened in my bedroom at the age of 10. I always had trouble sleeping and spent most nights tossing and turning. I was a horror film fanatic as a child, and being scared was something that I didn't have much experience with. I wasn't afraid of the dark, nor was I easily swayed by strange sounds or odd encounters. I did, however, know when to get out of a situation or to find a trusted adult. I always slept with my closet doors open, which will come to be of some significance later in the story. I should also mention that my family home was in a heavily wooded area, in what some may refer to as the middle of nowhere. One night at around 1 a.m., I awoke to the sound coming from underneath my bed. It sounded like one of my cats were scratching themselves with one of their feet, or doing something to cause a thumping beneath me. I had heard this same sound many times before, and its source had always been one of my fuzzy friends. So this time I didn't look. I closed my eyes and tried to fall back asleep. I turned over onto my left side, which left me facing the wall against which my bed was pressed up against. I heard the sound again, and thinking that my kitty was directly beneath me, I said goodnight, and I was able to fall asleep once again. The next time that I awoke, it was to a surreal and shocking scene. The sheet and comforter of my bed were no longer covering me. I saw a man standing over my bed, poking me with his finger, and the way in which he did so was truly horrifying. It was not the way that a child would poke a friend in jest. It was as if he was touching another human being for the first time, exploring the sensation of the tip of his index finger and jabbing at flesh. What I saw was so unbelievable, so impossibly strange that I believed I was dreaming. I tried desperately to awake from my nightmares, but to no avail. The poking continued. He poked at my chest, my belly, my legs and arms. Paralyzed and scared out of my mind, I yelled, "Wake up!" And with this, the man threw himself to the floor and closed his eyes, as if he was trying to lead me to believe that he was asleep, or dead. I have no idea. It was at this time I realized that I could not have been dreaming. I somehow found the ability to move, and I jumped from the top of my bed, over the man lying on the floor next to me, and I ran towards my parents' room. When I got to their bedroom door, something came over me. I told myself that this was all impossible, that there was no way a person could have entered our home without breaking in, as we had always kept every door and window locked at night. I had seen many strange things in my home while either falling asleep or waking up. By the third or fourth time, after speaking to my mom or dad about it, I knew that it was my mind playing tricks on me. Plush toys do not have the ability to turn and whisper to each other. Do not ask why, dear reader, as I have no explanation to offer you, but I turned away from my parents' bedroom door and decided to hastily check the house for a break-in. What I found was that nothing was out of the ordinary. No broken windows or locks, no busted doors, nothing. I assured myself that I had to have been dreaming or hallucinating, and I blamed my obsession with horror for this. I made my way down the long, dark and narrow hallway to my bedroom. I peeked inside and saw no one. I turned on the light, got down on the floor just outside the doorway, and I looked under the bed. Nothing. I proceeded to check both of my windows for signs of a break-in, which were not present. Both windows were closed and locked. I knew it. I was totally seeing things. I crawled back into bed and decided to watch some TV in order to calm myself down and distract from thoughts of the scary as heck dream or hallucination that I had just had. I turned on the TV, flipped to a channel with a seemingly boring program. This always helped me become sleepy, and put the remote control on my bedside table. I was lying on my right side, facing away from the wall that I had mentioned previously. As I laid there, my eyes began to adjust to the dark room with the faint light from the TV screen. Just beyond the TV, I saw something that made my heart sink into the pit of my stomach. inside my closet with one of the doors asleep, I imagine. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move. I sat and stared at the man in my closet for what felt like minutes, but was likely only a few seconds. I quietly got out of bed, hoping that the man wouldn't notice and that my dad could catch him hiding in the closet. I once again made my way to my parents' bedroom door, still remaining as quiet as I possibly could, and I went inside. I shook my dad and mom at the same time, and when they awoke, I said, "Shh, don't make any sound. There's someone in my closet." My parents both jumped up and said, "What?" I repeated myself and asked them to please call 911. My mom immediately picked up the phone. Neither of my parents doubted my claim, as I had always been honest and forthright. They both knew that there was no way that I was making this up or that I was mistaken. I'm sure that the look I must have had on my face made it clear that this was really happening. My dad told my mom and I that he was going to look, and he urged us to stay in their bedroom and lock the door. And so we did. At this point, I was beyond scared. I didn't know what the man was capable of, whether he had a weapon or whether my dad was safe. I just stood in the room with my mom and cried. After what felt like hours, my dad knocked on the door and told me that it was him, and that it was okay to open the door. My mom unlocked the door and let my dad inside. I said something to the effect of, "Did you get him?" My dad looked at me with the most unsettling and confused look imaginable. He said, "There's no one there." I assured him that there was indeed a man in my room and that he had been poking me. My dad said that he had just checked every inch of the house and found no one. He had also checked the doors and windows just as I had done. And then it hit me. He must have had a key. As soon as I said this, my parents looked at each other in absolute terror. Our nearest neighbor, a trusted and beloved friend whom we considered family, was in possession of a key to our house, and she had babysat me since I was a toddler. She was the only person outside of my immediate family with a key to our home. Soon after this revelation, the police arrived, took statements, checked around our property, and left. None of us got any sleep that night. The next day, my dad went to my neighbor's house and asked if she knew where her key to her house was. She said yes, and when she went to show him, she saw that it was missing. Her home had no signs of a break-in, and she had always kept her doors and windows locked. My parents had all of the locks on our doors changed, and opted to never again give a key to anyone, except in the wake of an emergency. I never discovered the identity of the man that lurked in my bedroom that night. The event had left me traumatized, and it took a very long time for me to accept what had happened and move on. My sleeping trouble turned into full-on insomnia, and for about a decade I was unable to sleep without a light on. It's been about 20 years since that night, and apart from my parents, I've never told a soul about it until now. I've actually found writing this to be very cathartic, and I'm glad that I finally found a place to share it. My heart goes out to anyone who has suffered a trauma in their lives, and I hope that you are all able to find peace within yourselves. So after crying just a little bit after looking at crime scenes on the internet, I think it might be time to tell this story. It's just one of those moments when I randomly start thinking about it in a more serious mood than usual. It's gonna be long. So this happened about 4 months ago now, maybe more, but I really don't know for sure. Anyway, I was 19 years old and I've turned 20 by now, about mid-February. And I was going home from university after classes. I usually take my keys with me, but around that time, I had lost them and my mom was yet to take me to get a new copy. I remember that I kept insisting, but she wouldn't listen. So what I did was knock on the door to get my younger brother's attention, so that he would come and let me in, but my mom also took his keys and just left them there locked up as well. I asked my brother to pass me my charger from my room, and I called one of my aunties to see if I could go hang out at her workplace in the meantime. She told me yes and then told me to call an Uber that she would be paying for as soon as I got there, so that's what I did. Now the Uber didn't pick me up exactly at home. It was in the house across the street instead. No special reason, it just did. The moment that I saw the guy, he gave me kind of a weird vibe, but I also tend to be paranoid every time I so much as hop on a taxi. So I just got in, rolled down the window and kept a grip on both of my phones. It all seemed relatively normal until we got to the area where my auntie's workplace was. This was a convenience store at her home in a housing. I think that's what you call it. When there's like a private division, I don't know, but condominium didn't sound right. Well, he just completely drove past it and claimed he was following the GPS when I asked him about it. But he wouldn't let me see said GPS. He seemed to know exactly where he was going now. I was kind of doomed from the beginning because I don't know directions, and I could only rely on the driver being a decent person and recognizing the area, which I did. But wherever he was taking me, I had no idea. I remember seeing this fountain that I could recognize from when Mom drove to my uncle's place, but that was like way further away from my aunt's place. By now, I was kind of thinking of what to do because this guy just drove past a ton of empty houses and a couple of them even seemed to be still under construction. And then he stopped near a place that looked like the end of civilization. We were literally on a hill and then he just turned off the car. I got lucky in so many ways looking back at it. My phone had no credit. As soon as I thought of that, my aunt had called me and asked, "Where are you?" And I literally felt my heart drop because I have no idea and this dude was just staring at me. I told her that I didn't know and I asked him, "Hey, where did you take me?" And he replied with, "I wouldn't know what to tell you, kid." And that was enough for me. I grabbed my backpack and opened the door really quick with a loud, "Well, that's fine, I'll see myself out." And I hauled butt like I hadn't in a very long time. I remember even being afraid of carrying my backpack on the back in case he would chase me, and he would pull on it, so I was holding it in my hand with my hoodie wrapped around my waist as I thought of where to hide. I thought of knocking on someone's door, but for some reason, that didn't seem safe to me at the moment. I remember telling my aunt not to hang up because he was still following me in his car. And then I saw an empty barren surrounded by concrete walls and a strong bar gate, except there was enough space under the gate to crawl in. So I literally threw the backpack and then crawled under. There was a huge electric control box and I opened it to crouch inside and hide, with my aunt still on the phone. She, my other aunt, and my uncle were all on a call with each other, putting credit on my phone and asking for my live location through WhatsApp, because I had no idea where I was. I was literally in the middle of nowhere. I waited there for like 2 hours and this guy wouldn't leave. I even had to go to the bathroom outside the box and immediately run back inside. There were even tiny spiders and old honeycombs, so I was fighting back both my arachnophobia and trypophobia. At some point, I'm guessing the guy left and my uncle got there in his truck. He didn't know where I was, so he kept honking and telling me to tell him when I could hear it closer. And then I finally did and I got out. For a while, I thought maybe this had been a misunderstanding, and I just jumped out of some guy's car like a maniac without even paying him. But then when I got home after staying at my aunt's pharmacy for a while until my mom, who still didn't know much about what had happened, had picked me up. I checked the Uber app and not only did it say that I had already paid, but it also said that I had made it to my destination, so I ruled that one out. I had told my aunts to not tell my mom about it because she would go insane at the minor inconvenience, so telling her this would only freak her out and she wouldn't be of any help. I only let her know when I called her to come and get me, and on our way to get a copy of that key because, of course, something bad had happened until she would actually listen to me, and nowadays she always puts credit on my phone. Anyways, so that's what went down. I had to Indiana Jones that stuff twice, and to this day, my family brags about how I was able to keep myself perfectly composed and react quickly, which I'm still shocked about. I remember seeing broken glass and metal bars laying around and telling my aunt that I'm going down, I'm taking him with me, in a joking manner because her blood sugar levels were screwing her over. On our way home, my mom told me that I wasn't in hysterics because I was in shock and that it would hit me the next day. Well, it didn't. I kept going around as normal, but last week she brought it up again and asked if I didn't think I was gonna die. I said of course, but that I also knew freaking out would only make me easier to target or just not help at all anyway. When I remember it, more than scared, I feel angry. I could have been one of the many girls who just disappeared and are later found dead on a random hill or in a ditch. And I can't say I suffer survivor's guilt because in all honesty I don't. But I can't help but think that could have been me whenever another kid or teenager is on the news as missing or found dead. It really could have gone terribly wrong. My parents believed this guy was a rookie who maybe felt sorry for me and let me go, because if he had wanted to, he could have hurt me with some sort of weapon, or just would have killed me right then and there. I don't even know anymore. I sent his profile to all the girls that I know so that if they ever happen to get him as their Uber driver, they can cancel it. Since then, I don't take Ubers anymore. I'm a 19-year-old female French student, so please excuse my English. This event happened last week. I was heading to my apartment after seeing a friend. I took the tramway at 11:30 p.m. because I didn't feel comfortable walking at night. As soon as I sat, a man who was already sitting nearby came and sat in front of me. I had a very strange feeling about it, so I told my boyfriend by chat. And then I stood up to get out of the tram, but the man quickly got out after me. He was weirdly following me, not walking behind me but next to me. I was getting very anxious and knowing something was wrong, so I continued to walk to the avenue that I live in. I crossed the road and he didn't, so I thought that it was okay. But a few seconds after, he crossed the road too and was walking behind me. And then he passed me and was walking in front of me, so I thought that I was just getting paranoid and that he was just walking his way too. But near my building, he stopped and waited until I caught up to him. He asked me if I had a boyfriend and all. I answered, "Yes, sorry, good evening," as polite as I could be. He proceeded to leave in front of me, so I was walking slower for him to be far from me and to make sure that he didn't know that I was almost home. I turned into the little pathway heading to the lobby of my building, but I was still anxious about this man even though we continued to walk. I thought that I had to put my keys in my pocket, but they were in my bag. I was shaking so much that I tried multiple times to grab them. I managed to finally get them and I opened the magnetic door, but thought of closing the door immediately after me in case the man wanted to follow. The door was closed, but the magnetic system wasn't on. Yet that the man was running to it and he pushed it violently with horrific eyes looking at me. The door is made of glass, so I totally saw him. And that's when I knew that I was getting into real trouble, so without even thinking, I screamed as much as I can and think that that's what saved my life. Immediately, the man ran to me, pushed me hard on the ground and started to choke me out. I was too stunned because I wasn't prepared for such a horrible act. While he was doing this, I couldn't scream at all or even breathe, and nobody was coming, so I really thought that I was going to die looking to his bulging eyes staring directly into mine, with pure hate. I'm pretty small, so I wasn't able to do something with my arms at all either. I think it wasn't that long, but it felt like an eternity, and I lost consciousness for a moment. When I opened my eyes again, he had just run out, and I saw the caretaker's wife beside me. The caretaker was chasing after the man but didn't manage to get him. He came back and called the police that caught the man within 10 minutes, thanks to our description. I really don't know why he did that to me, because when he attacked me, it wasn't sexual or he didn't try to rob me, which would have been easy. I can't understand that his only goal was to kill. I'll never be thankful enough to my caretaker who came to help me and save my life, because nobody else in the building called the police or tried to help. The man was judged 3 days later and is in jail now, but denied everything even if me and the caretaker identified him, and that there was video proof of him following me.